To order, this is a special meeting of the Board of Equalization. Today is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. It is 9:30 and this is our decision day. We're all three here. Mr. Town.
Present.
Ms. Sellers.
Present.
Okay, next is here from the assessor's office. We have just 15 items on the agenda today. Item 1. Oh, did I say this meeting was properly posted on May 31st, 2024. Item 1 is a discussion and possible action regarding the minutes of our meeting of May 24th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of 2024.
I'd like to move approval of item 1, minutes of previous meetings as stated.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 2 on the agenda is BOE number 494. And I think, okay, so this is the one, oh no, that's apartments. Okay, so we'll do it by itself. BOE number 494, apartments at 3317 Southwest 74th Street. The assessor was at $4,512,000, but said that he could deal with 4.3 if we make that decision. And the property owner wants 3.5 million. This is low income housing that receives a subsidy. Okay, so the real dispute is in allowable expenses. There's a 5% vacancy rate only on this. Okay, so I don't remember what if it was the 5% vacancy rate that made the assessor drop from.
So the assessor agreed that the income value on it should be 3.1 million.
Okay.
And so that he based his off of that income value as well as last year's comps. Is how he came up with the 4.3. I guess my concern is we weren't provided a copy of last year's comps.
Okay, and and they held this value for 2 years. The 4.5 had held for 2 years.
Right.
And did I don't remember this property. Did the property owner disagree with the comps? I don't have that note.
The property owner is basing their valuation, I believe, primarily off of that income value.
Right.
And I don't know, because they came up to 3.5. I'm trying to see why they came up to 3.5.
Well, they started out with 906, took off 500,000 being low income. I 21,565 is what they, and I got 22 beside that. Wonder if that's per unit value in 22.
Well, they had the financial statement showed a negative income.
Well, there was a sale in 21. I think that was a short year income.
Okay, that's what it is.
Well, yeah.
The sale in 21 was 5.3 million.
Right.
But it also included some land next door. It wasn't a lot of land, but it did include some land.
And that was 3 years ago. Okay, well, let's see. So we're 3.5 income plus sales brings us to 4.3 versus 3.5. I kind of like to see them do more than one method of valuation. These were two. This was not so old that they could not have done a cost value. But they just did income. I have 226,000. Rent 609,000. Section 8 subsidy.
Yeah, I also had a note that the assessor said that the comps indicated a higher rent per unit. value, but again, we didn't have access to comps, so.
Well, let's see, do you wanna split the difference between 4.3 and 3.5? And do, 3.9? Since you didn't see the comps?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. How about you, Brett?
I could agree that some part of my problem is 95% occupancy, and they basically almost saying like they lose money.
Well, but my note said that they didn't know what the occupancy was,
Right.
so I don't.
I have a question.
Sure.
May I come in?
Sure.
Oh. I was here a couple of weeks ago, and the verdict I got was not satisfactory to me. I got a letter saying I should proceed next step. What is the next step? Your attorney?
Well, we can't advise you, but the only person that can overrule this body is the district court.
So how do I register for that?
I think you need to look at the statute.
I'm sorry?
You need to look at the statute.
Is it my job to look at it?
It is.
Is it your job to tell me where to?
Not my job to tell you.
Is there an office here where I can register? Because I don't want to get, I would like to represent myself.
It's over in the courts, and the court clerk's office is in the other building,
Oh. Or so,
in the building across.
okay. Okay. Is that best I can do, I guess?
Yeah.
You know, the letter was not clear enough what a person should do. The letter I got from this committee. It was not clear enough. I didn't understand it, and apparently, you know, you can't tell me what the next step is. I've got to get an attorney for her to file against it.
Unless you want to do it yourself.
What I would recommend is you go to the court clerks.
Yeah, you'd have to hire an attorney if you don't know what to do with that.
I know what I have to do to represent myself, but I want direction from this office to tell me where to register within 30 days.
Yeah, we can't tell you that. It's left this board and that's it. It's out of our hands now.
That's kind of difficult to swallow.
Just read the statute. The citation. The same statute that allowed you to get here will tell you what to do after that.
Okay. May I say something else?
Sure.
I was here. Do you recognize me?
I do.
Okay.
You were here last year too. I recognize you. Yes, I do.
Okay. The verdict I got was, I thought, quite unfair.
Okay, so we're actually in the middle of having a meeting right now to make our decisions on the ones that we saw
No, I'm
today.
just addressing it to you because I guess you didn't listen to me properly, or.
That would be the argument you would make to the court.
So where do I register?
You should go to the court clerk's office over in the next building.
Okay, they would know what to do.
They might help you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Okay. Now where were we? Oh, we were deciding if we thought that we could. Yes, and Brett, I agree that when you only have a 5% vacancy rate, it's kind of hard to say that you're really in distress. I think they overpaid, and that's really their gripe that they overpaid. But unless they want to raise rents,
Yeah, no, but my notes indicate that they did not agree that it was a 5%. We asked them what the vacancy rate was, and they said they didn't know.
okay. Well, we got that from somewhere.
I think that was what they used in the income value
Okay.
when they did the math.
Okay.
Were the rent, let me check, were the rent rolls provided? That may have been where they got it from. See a rent roll on here. could we consider 4 million as a
Yes.
value?
Sure.
I could support that.
Okay.
I'd like to move on item number 2, BOE 494. We set the fair market value of this property at $4 million for this year.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, 483 to 488 is all this one thing, right?
Correct.
But, okay, so either we accept the assessor and the way he apportioned it. The only real dispute here is not, well, all of them are affected. Because once you change the valuation, do you think we can change the valuation on one and hold on all the others?
If we did that, it wouldn't be the 3.2 million.
Yeah, I ran it a couple of ways. I ran it, changing all 5 of them, and then I also ran it just changing the ones that the assessor suggested changing it, but lowering it. But I think what we need to discuss here first, what we need to agree on, because I think the assessor agreed
On the
on
overall
with
value?
the appraisal, but he did not agree to reduce it based off of the construction that was required. I think it was
That's
for
correct.
the roof. So I think we first have to
3.5.
agree whether or not we're gonna go from the 3.5 to 3.2. And then if we do, then we can talk about how we wanna split it between the 5.
Now, I thought about that and tried to make it personal. If I paid for a house and then that first year had to redo the roof, would I want my valuation lowered until I put the new roof on? That's kind of where we are with this. And what's gonna happen next year after the roof is done? They're gonna bounce it back up?
I would. I mean, as an assessor or a board here, I would.
I mean, we've
Can't you
done it
accomplish the
before.
same thing if you just leave it the way it is for 2 years?
But we've done it on some residential properties, right? When they provided some construction costs, I believe we did reduce,
Reduce?
yeah.
Well, that would mean that you're gonna agree with him on the 3.2. And if you do that,
Well, and I think the assessor even indicated that he agreed that we should as well. I think we even asked him, what was your feeling about that towards the end of the meeting yesterday, and whether or not he would take that into consideration in determining the value, and I believe he said yes.
okay, so you guys are leaning to do the 3.2, and if that was the case, then on each one of them, we just take what the property owner said he apportioned to that.
Well,
As long as it equaled 3.2.
Well, I'm assuming he did his math, because he's 30 and 180 is 210.
yeah, his did add up to the 3.2, but then it didn't take into consideration what the assessor suggested doing, because the assessor wanted to lower just 3 of the properties. And so I kind of ran it both ways, depending on how you guys felt. I ran it just taking into consideration what the assessor was suggesting changing.
And which 3 was the,
So the assessor was suggesting changing 485. I believe he had said he would agree to 1425,
I wrote that
but I
down.
would lower that to
I had
1.
no lease information. I see that 1425.
Yeah, but if we were gonna take the 3.2, that was based off of 3.5. If we're
Ah.
gonna do it based off of 3.2, we'd have to lower it to 1.3. And then, I think there was
Okay, 87, I have a 260.975.
87, yeah, and that one, we would have to go from the 266,975 to either 225 or 211, depending on which one, whether we want to change them all or just change the ones that the assessor suggested changing.
Okay, and
And then the same thing with 488.
he had 1425.
Right, we'd have to drop that one as well to 1.3 in order to get to the 3.2.
And then leave the other ones at whose value? The property owner?
At the assessor's original.
The assessor's
valuation.
original?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do,
Or we can drop them all like the taxpayer was suggesting. But we'd have to tweak it a little bit as well, I think.
Okay, so since we're on 483, which is a platted land, unplatted land, and we're not gonna make any change to that for the assessor, then it's 42,030. You guys agreeing to that? Because the three we're gonna change is, the three are 485, 487, and 488.
Correct.
Okay.
So 485 would be 1.3, 46 stays the same, 47 would be 211, 488 would be 13, and then those all add up to
1-3 even.
3.2025. I couldn't get it to match
That's fine.
exactly, but it's
Those, then the one I'm missing is 87, it's gonna be 260, or you would have to reduce the 260.
487 would be 211
Even.
even.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on BOE, 483 for 42,000.
Are you okay with that?
Yes, go ahead, if you want to make these
Okay.
motions.
So I'll make a motion on BOE 483, item number 3 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $42,030.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so next is BOE 484. And that would be
248, 948.
248, 948.
I'll make a motion on BOE 484, item number 4 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $248,948.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, and then 485, BOE 485 is gonna be 1,300,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on BOE 485, item number 5 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $1,300,000.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so then BOE number 486 is gonna be, $98,047.
Yes. I'll make a motion on BOE 486, item number 6 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $98,000 and $98,047.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then BOE 487 is gonna be 211,000 even.
I'll make a motion on BOE 487, item number 7 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $211,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then BOE number 488 will be 1,300,000.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on BOE 488, item number 8 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $1,300,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that then takes us to BOE number 490, which is item 9 on the agenda, 7520 Country Club Drive. This is the 48 unit apartments.
Now, this one kind of is combined with 491.
This one is, yeah, they're the same apartments on 2 different plats.
Okay, I have. So, is this the difference between 6,200,000?
In combination of the two, correct. Of
So this
490.
one has some issues on, that I've looked at. The square footage is wrong on the, on some of the documents. There's just no way that, I'm just looking at the income analysis, for the 48, which is the one we're looking at, that could be correct at 34,056. But when you look at the other one, and when you look at the total they have for both of them at 68,000.
64,872.
That can't be correct. That's 400 square feet a unit. I mean, that's 2/3 of this room per unit. So I believe that the one is 34,000. BOE 490 is probably 34,056, and the next one probably is 91,336. and working from those, that's for 108 units. So I don't think we can work from the 64,000. So therefore, it's hard, very difficult to do a square foot analysis based on that. I think I would propose we look at a per unit analysis to determine the fair market value of this
Okay, so
property.
did the property owner say 39,800 was his per unit?
No, that's the assessor's. He said 33,000. I believe was the property owner's.
So the assessor did agree that the income value should be 5.1. Or I think it was actually 5.19, which rounded it up to 5.2, which in total for the two, which is what the taxpayer was asking for. But I think the assessor was using that in conjunction with his comps to get to the 6.2, right? Because his comps, let's see what the comps added up to, 19 and
39.7 per unit.
yeah, I'm looking at the price per square foot. Yeah, so the price per square foot calculation with the comps comes to a little over 7 million. So I believe the assessor was using the in between the price per square foot or maybe the price per unit, some $7 million, 7.1 million number against the 5.1. He was landing in between at 6.2.
Okay, what is this
Sound right?
5613 versus 4699? The one was the actual and one was the typical? Or
The actual, the 5.1 was the actual income value and the 7.8 was the typical, but the assessor conceded on that one that the 5.1 was a valid income value to use.
right,
But the assessor was doing his calculation using that in conjunction with the comps, right, which is how he came on to the 6.2.
and the property owner said he never did anything, but he didn't want to do his independent analysis. He just attacked what the assessor did.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue as well is that the assessor did not consider vacancies when he did his valuation in using the comps, I believe. And what was the vacancy rate on this one?
15% vacancy.
15?
15, 1 5, I can't tell vacancy. And then Steve was arguing that you can't take the vacancy out twice.
Oh, that's right.
That's what he was.
Yeah, and then there was that one comp too, that although it was a July of 2022, it was practically next door. I mean, or just a block away from this property, and it sold for 10 million.
Right.
And the square footage is pretty close. If the assessor's calculation of the square footage is accurate, the square footage on that property was 118,713 compared to 125 for the subject property. So, I mean, that kind of speaks to the value. Was there condition issues on this one? He did say there were
Only fair condition.
Yeah.
He was the property owner. Parking lot. Wrong person. He said fair. I wrote down only fair condition. Well, so we are between what two figures?
6.2 and 5.2.
That's right, 1 million. I remember that.
I mean, they round up.
For
There's a
the
little bit more
total,
numbers.
we'll have to divide it out some way. We'll have to
Because of the
parcel it
two.
out.
What did you get on your price per unit calculation, Brett?
Well, the assessor's at 39,800, the property owner's at 33,000. And if there is some credence to occupancy, which, that, if you lowered it a little, I'm either leaning towards accepting the assessors in total or a slight reduction, but
Yeah.
nothing like the taxpayer ones.
That's kind of where I am as well. that even though it was a 2022 sale, that property being so close
Yeah,
in
you have to
size
give
and
some
proximity.
credence to sales. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Eleanor said earlier, using two factors to do the calculation, is a good thing. I think you have to take that into consideration.
And that's sort of the art of this, because there is no formula for blending those two. So you just have to sort of figure out what you want to do
Well,
as far as blending them.
The other interesting thing is I do remember the taxpayer specifically telling me that he liked the comps.
Yeah.
He liked the $80 per square foot comp, but that was when he thought the square footage was 64,000,
Right.
which we've now discounted. So
He said you could spread them between 75 to 85, and that he would accept any of them. Ideally 80, but he understood that the 85 might even be possible. So,
Yeah. So I think it comes down to the square footage, how we started on this, and if we're all in agreement that the square footage is 125,000, then I'm good with the assessor's valuation at 6.2.
okay, and how much for this one?
So then it would be $1,911,600 for 490, and one.
And then the next one would be $4,291,609.
Yes. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion on BOE 490.
And BOE 490, I'm going to set the fair market value of this property at $1,911,600.
A second?
All in favor? Aye. And then the corollary is gonna be BOE number 491 for, valuation of $4,291,609.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make a motion on BOE 491, item number 10 on the agenda to set the fair market value at $4,291,609.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that takes us to BOE number 492, 11 North MacArthur Boulevard. We've got, income value. We had average sales and income. We did cost, and we did sales. The sales had two comps. One was 6 million, one was 6,443,000. The assessor is at 7,014,802.
But he said he would agree with lowering it to
6,625,000.
Primarily due-
6,625,000.
150.
One side home.
I think that's based on the vacancy rate that wasn't calculated in originally on
5%
the 7
vacancy.
million.
Yes.
So I think that's fair. I mean, that's a good blending of the of sales and income approach. So I'd like to move on BOE 492. We set the fair market value of this property at $6,625,150.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that brings us to BOE 497, which is item 12 on the agenda. 5107 Hammond Avenue. The assessor started out at $5,598,000 and dropped to $4,170,000.
And he agreed in the meeting that he would accept $3,612,000.
Right. 84 units, and the property owner,
3.2.
it's 3.2, yeah. Property owner is at 3.2, 3.6.
Yeah, my only concern that I had on this one,
Is this the one that had about 52% or
52%.
48% vacancy?
yeah, 48% vacancy, and it didn't appear that the assessor took that vacancy into consideration when he even got the 6.2. It did also say it did exclude the lease up cost.
This we had the broker's opinion on that. Were we not considering
We
that?
can't consider
Can't
that. It
consider
was
that, okay.
after the fact.
Yeah, but the property owner did say though that the assessor did not take the vacancy. Actually, it was the occupancy issues, the vacancy on the comp properties that he didn't take into consideration when he did the 3.6. Her argument was that the comp properties didn't have as high a vacancy rate
As
than the
this.
subject property. So that was her argument. So do we take that into consideration?
Well, when I see a $2 million reduction from the original, I'm having a hard time coming down further. We started at 5,598, dropped to 4,170, and then dropped to 3,612,000. And there's a big difference between 3,612,000. Not a big difference between 3,612,000 and 3,002,000. I actually think
What was the reason that the assessor dropped from the
5 down to the 4.
4.1?
I'm trying to think if he take different comps or if he got told about the vacancy.
The comps in the area were
Had lower vacancy rates than the
much lower.
Much,
I think they had some documentation
Yeah.
of that.
I think it was probably the vacancy rate.
Well, no, she said he didn't take that into consideration, the vacancy rates of the comps.
No, the vacancy rate for this.
For this property, I believe he did.
Well, I'm saying I think that's why he dropped from the 559 down to the 4170.
May I interject, sorry?
Sure.
Yeah, they were apparently looking at the information on here. We did several I&E reports, and I'm seeing various vacancy and collection losses, and I'm seeing one where it says 5%, which comes out to a figure of 4.1 million.
Right.
Yeah.
On this subject property or
On
on
the
the sale properties?
it could be. Oh, I guess it
It's,
might be.
it's the subject part because the 4,017,000 matches what they
Yeah.
dropped it.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so he dropped it based off of the vacancy rate initially, and then why did he drop it from the 4.1 to the 3.6? Because the vacancy increased substantially? So, yeah, you're right. I think he all of his reasoning for dropping was because of the vacancy rates, but the question is, do we take into consideration the differential between the comp property occupancy and the subject property? That's what.
Well, that's not gonna help her if he did.
Yeah.
Because their vacancy rates are so much lower.
Well, and I agree with you. I think he dropped it substantially from what it originally was and then dropped it again.
Yes.
And the property did sell in 2015 for 3.6 million.
Right.
I kind of hesitate to drop below that.
Yeah, I can live with the assessor's 3.612. Can you, Brett?
Again, it's still a little high per unit, $43,000 a unit, but I think there's some things, just looking at some of the photos, that it's a nice apartment from the outside. It looks like it has had some renovations, although no one has brought that up. But it did not look like it was in disrepair from the photos I saw. So I could live with the assessor's valuation.
Okay.
I'll make a motion on BOE 497, item number 12 on the agenda, to set the fair market value at $3,612,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes us to,
I'm gonna reschedule.
did he have 98 and no, we haven't done 98.
Those were rescheduled.
Oh, he had all three of them?
Yep.
Okay, 98, 99, and 500. Okay, those have been reset. So that brings us to the end of our agenda.
All right. And next week, we're meeting, what days?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then
Decision on
decision
Friday.
Friday.
Back to our regular schedule.
All right.
We're meeting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Yes.
Good. All right. I move we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.